a rhythm and you can dance to it. Maybe. My phone just told me I'm live. Good to know.
Remember, you can purchase all of Dr. Morgan's products at her website at www.drjudymorgan.com. Now it's time to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Well, I'm glad some of you pay attention when your phone buzzes or your computer buzzes, because you never know when we're going to show up these days. But there was a conversation on the Friends. It is a beautiful day, and I can't wait to get out of the office and go enjoy it. So there was a conversation going on about some dogs that were having some stool issues and some really foul breath, and some of our moderators and administrators were being very helpful, giving information. And I thought, you know, this is something that is such a common problem. I deal with more bowel disease problems and allergies than any one person could ever want to deal with in their entire life. And what that says to me is a lot of you are dealing with those issues, which is why you're reaching out to us. And we could probably spend all day long talking about diarrhea, vomiting, anorexia, nasty looking stools, and it's a frustration, particularly for pet owners who don't know how to solve the problem. And everything will be going fine. You don't make any changes. Your pet seems very happy. And then all of a sudden, boom, mucus, blood, stomach upset, don't want to eat. And it's so frustrating because you can't find a pattern, and you can't. Your dog or cat may have been put on a prescription diet for pancreatitis, and you're so careful and you don't give one extra thing because you've been told, oh my gosh, for whatever you do, don't give them people food. Like, you know, people food is a horrible thing. It's poison. And then your pet gets another bout of pancreatitis and is hospitalized, and you're like, why? I didn't do anything. I didn't change anything. He didn't get into anything. And of course, when you go to the veterinarian, their first thing that they're going to say is, well, he must have gotten into the trash, or he picked up something to eat outside. And let me tell you, 9 times out of 10, they didn't. It's because we have not solved the underlying imbalance in the body. So we have a bunch of different products on the website geared toward gut health and fixing the gut. So we've talked a lot about probiotics. We have our soil-based probiotics, the Symbiota, is it the Phytos Flora? That's the soil-based. And then we have Gut Sense and Gut Soothe and RX Biotic. We have a lot of different probiotics on the website, and it's very confusing for you. You're like, which one do I use? I don't know. And we do recommend some rotation. And it really depends on what works best for your individual pet. There is no one size fits all. My dogs were on RX Biotic for years. There was another one, I can't even think of the name of it, that we used for quite a few years as well. It was in my original book. But now we've started switching around. When we went to a soil-based probiotic, Symbiota, that made a world of difference for our dog Shayna, who had chronic diarrhea problems thanks to all of her cardiac medications. And lately my dogs have been on the Phytos Flora because I decided to switch things up, and they've been doing marvelously well. And then the other day I was getting food out of the freezer and went, holy cow, I still have 12 half gallons of fermented raw goat milk in my freezer. I should probably start using them up. I mean, they're good for another year, but I should probably start using them up. So now that's been their probiotic this week. They do great on it. So, sometimes we do want to switch things up a little bit. And if we're having an issue and what you're using isn't working, then you need to find something else. For instance, when people come to me with an animal with a food allergy, food intolerance, and they're so afraid to switch the diet because they don't want to set off the explosion. And it's like, okay, well, your pet has diarrhea with mucus and specks of blood every day, and you're afraid to make a change, all I can tell you is it ain't working what you're doing. We need to make a change. So, and amazingly, when we get off highly processed foods that are cooked at high heat with a lot of synthetics added to them, when we get away from that and we get to whole foods, 9 times out of 10, the problem will solve itself. And I did 2 consultations today for people where this was their problem, bloody mucoid stools, repeated bouts of pancreatitis. And because they had to wait quite a few weeks to get their consultation because we have such a backlog, we basically sent them an email and said, okay, so between now and when you get the consultation with us, we just want you to get this dog on whole food. We're going to use something that's going to be low fat, less likely to react, cod and butternut squash or rabbit and butternut squash, something that might be a little bit of a novel protein that's going to be lower in fat, easy to digest. So to start with, maybe we want to put that food in a slow cooker so that it's cooked at a low heat, but very well digested and broken down, then run it through a food processor so that it's even more digested for them. And by the time I get on the phone to do the consultation, it's like, oh, look at that, his stools are perfectly normal. Cured. What do you need me for? So I would strongly recommend, if you're having issues, like, there's a starting point. Get rid of the processed food. Particularly if you've got bloody mucousy stools, get the hot proteins out of the diet, get chicken out of the diet. Let's get things that are easy to digest, that are not going to set them off. But we've got some herbal supplements that can really help if your pet doesn't do that quick change back to normal as soon as you change the diet, or if this is something where they really are out of balance. So one of my favorites that I talk about a lot is the Coptis. Coptis is a very cold herbal formula. This is for hot diarrhea. It is for blood. It is for chronic mucus. That smelly, stinky, foul diarrhea, because there's a lot of heat going on in there, a lot of inflammation. So a lot of times pets with Giardia. Any pet who is chronically being handed metronidazole to solve their diarrhea issues, and they respond to metronidazole, they're going to respond to this, and you won't get the side effects that you get with metronidazole. Metronidazole is an antibiotic. It is killing the gut microbiome. So then you've got to start all over, replenishing the gut microbiome and rebalancing that. So Coptis is such a cold herb that it is not meant to be used every day long term. It is meant to solve a problem. Just like you might use metronidazole for a week-long period to get things under control. Kind of the same thing with this. Now, with that said, I've had some dogs with some incredible heat that we have had to keep on a low dose, not a full dose, but a low dose. One patient in particular was a golden retriever puppy who was purchased from Texas, so he came from a very hot environment. And when he came up to New Jersey, he was just having bloody mucousy stools all the time. So the owner was very holistic, very good. She changed the diet. We still couldn't get it under control. We put him on Coptis. Boom, done, cured. So we kept him on that for our week to 10 days to get things under control. And then I said, all right, let's back down. She got him all the way down. She wasn't using T-pills, she was using capsules, but she got him all the way down to 1 capsule, which would have been enough for about a 20-pound dog. 1 capsule once a day. He was great. When she stopped, we were back to a problem. So we said, okay, he needs it. It was the middle of summer. It was hot, so we have external heat as well as his internal heat causing problems. So we kept him on a low dose. And then once the weather changed for the winter, he was fine. He could come off. As soon as the weather warmed up in the spring, we had to change him around again. So very cold, but very good for hot diarrheas, which is the blood and mucus. Okay. Then we're going to talk about Free and Easy Wanderer, also known as Jiaowei Xiaoyaowan. This one is for liver spleen disharmony. So these guys are going to have probably a hot diarrhea, hotter diarrhea. So it's going to have mucus. You might have some specks of blood. But these tend to be the dogs who are more, and I don't see this as much in cats, but dogs who are more of a wood personality, the ones who are just a little bit on edge, a little bit high strung. Like, you don't want to back them into a corner because they might tell you not to do that. They also might be the dogs who are very anxious and nervous all the time. The guys who are, they basically have all this, like, oh, it's all stuck in the middle. It's liver qi stagnation, and it's overacting on the bowel. So we've got this disconnect between the liver and bowel function. And remember, the liver kind of sits right in the middle there of all that. So this is very good for those anxious, nervous dogs where we might get a bit of a nervous colitis. And this one we're going to give for a little bit longer period, probably 1 to 3 months, because we're trying to rebalance the system and we're trying to drain the liver. So for those animals who are having this problem, we also want to drain the liver with things like asparagus and dandelion and radish. We want a cooling diet, and we want things that are going to resolve stagnation because it's a liver qi stagnation. Okay, so that's the free and easy wanderer. Then we have one of my favorites, Baijiu. The key to this one is for food stagnation. So that's the food is sitting in the stomach too long and it's sort of fermenting, and then that gas that's being produced in the stomach is rising up. So these guys will have foul breath because the food is sitting in there too long. It's fermenting. It's not moving on down into the intestines as quickly as it should. So it might show up as acid reflux in the middle of the night. It also might show up as, gee, my dog's teeth are really clean. I brushed them. There's not a lot of tartar, but man, his breath smells like somebody died in there. Baijiu, that's our Gabby, our little redhead. She's a little high strung. She irps her food a lot. And, you know, I was ignoring it. And finally I said, you know, doctor, treat your own kid. So I put her on the Baijiu, and she is so much better. And I've also discovered if we have dogs with stagnation, again, this is more a dog problem than a cat problem, but if we have animals with that food stagnation, they don't do well with heavy foods. Heavy food, beef. I give that dog beef, it's coming up. I know it's coming because it sits there too long. It's heavy. Think how you feel if you eat a huge steak meal. It sits there like a lump. So she does much better on something that's a little bit better qi tonic, a little lower in fat. So rabbit is great for her. She actually does okay with chicken, even though it's a hot protein. She does great with turkey. Duck is okay. But they don't like the heavy things. So we get a little careful with that. And the Baijiu, again, depends on how long it takes to get them under control. Gabby, the way she's built and at the way she's been doing this for so long, we're probably going to be on this herb for quite a few months. But if you're getting that foul odor, somebody died in that mouth, if there's no dental problems, no tumors in there, you know, nothing bad going on, then try the Baijiu. It works really well. Okay, for gentlemen, this one is probably going to be used more for senior dogs that are having a soft, colder diarrhea. So these don't necessarily have blood or mucus. They might have a little bit of mucus, but they don't have that hot diarrhea. This is more of a cold diarrhea, not digesting their food as well. They're getting some muscle weakness, some muscle atrophy, because if you remember, the digestive system is responsible for building muscle. So in older dogs, they're starting to lose that muscle mass. They're not eating as well as they were. Maybe they're becoming the old cold dog, so they're curling up in their little ball and they don't have any fat insulation. 4 gentlemen can be very helpful for that, to try to get the stools firmed up, because this one is going to warm the digestive system and going to help with that transformation of food into usable energy to build muscle. If they've gone past that, and this is for the really cold diarrheas, Shenling Baijiu, with these guys, the diarrhea is not going to have much odor at all. It might be pale. It's going to have undigested food. So grains might be coming out whole. You might see undigested pieces of meat. peas, whatever. Things are coming out undigested. It's a loose stool. May or may not have a little bit of mucus, generally not, and doesn't have much odor versus, if you remember the Coptis, those guys are going to have the really stinky diarrhea. So these guys are not going to have a stinky diarrhea, but it's going to be soft. You're not going to be able to pick it up. They're not going to digest. This is a very warming formula, so you don't want to give it to a dog that's hot. This is used, so we've used this in old cats and old dogs generally. Generally, they're going to be older. It's the old cold animals. My sister's Morgan horse, when he hit about 20 years old, as soon as the weather would turn cold, that horse squirted liquid diarrhea. And we solved that problem by using Shenling Baijiu in very enormous quantities, but it did solve the problem. And that's one of those things, if we didn't know the energetics of the problem and we said, oh, well, we've got this old dog that has diarrhea all the time, we'll put him on chronic metronidazole. Metronidazole is cooling, just like the Coptis. You're actually going to make the problem worse. So these are those old dogs or old cats or old horses that they're cold all the time. They don't have much body fat. They're not digesting their food well. This will help warm them up. This will help them digest that food again. Adding digestive enzymes along with that can be very beneficial for these guys. Okay, so you never knew there were so many kinds of diarrhea. You just thought, okay, well, I can't pick up the poop. But there's a huge difference in how they're treated. And unfortunately, from a traditional medicine standpoint, we've got Imodium, we've got metronidazole, we've got, which is Flagyl, we have Tylosin, we have hydrolyzed protein diets. Yeah, if you're treating a cold diarrhea, none of that's going to help. If you have an old dog or old cat who's not digesting well, none of that's going to help. Maybe digestive enzymes will help, but that's still not warming the middle. And remember, if you are making your own food or if you're feeding a raw food, everything needs to be fed at body temperature or room temperature. We don't want to feed things that are cold, particularly for those old cold animals. Feeding them food that temperature-wise is cold, you're going to make them worse. So, okay, hope that helps. I know you guys have lots of discussions about these different things. Can you do Balhiwan long-term, like for my megaesophagus kids? Yeah, you can certainly. I don't have huge problems with that one. It just helps move things through. I think it might be a little bit warming. Let me see what's in here. Could be a tiny bit warming. So if they're too hot, you just have to monitor that, Neely. But otherwise, yeah, I think for some dogs it would be helpful long-term. Okay, I gotta get going. I'm only like 3 hours behind in my work for today. And it's a really beautiful day. I want to go outside and play. My kitties? You're matching earrings? I have hats today. Oh. No one can say we're wearing cats. See, I got kitties today. Kitties. I have kitty socks on too. Yeah, right. Fashion by Dr. Judy. Certainly a fashion icon. All right, everybody, have a great day.